Alright boys, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, my name's Pep. I'm going to show you guys the best gear that you want in Season of Mastery. So let's get straight into it. First of all, we're going to start off with pre-raid Hemo. You can see exactly what we're taking here. The theme throughout this video is going to be you have to kind of take Dark Mantle for most of the sets. We'll obviously go in depth with that kind of stuff, but the Dark Mantle's just so ridiculously good. You can see the stats here on the chest, pretty much on par with Bloodfang, the same with the hood. It's pretty ridiculous, a cross between sort of tier 1, tier 2, etc. And yeah, I think most of you guys know most of these pieces. So you can swap out for different weapons. Obviously, if you want to get yourself a T-Boost, you can do that, but it's incredibly rare. I've not kept the Lobotomizer and other similar things in this because I don't believe AV to be something you guys really want to be doing with your time. You can pick yourself up a Kroll Blade as well. This is a ridiculously good weapon because sometimes Dalrens, you know, multiple people want this kind of thing and there's going to be a lot of competition, a lot of runs. You may just find it easier to farm a couple hundred gold and buy a Kroll Blade from the auction house. Common misconception is Iron Foe is good for Hemo. It's not. The weapon is far too fast, sorry. 2.4 speed is far too fast for Hemo. You have to bear in mind when you play Hemo, your Hemo damage scales off your weapon speed. So if you can get a slow weapon, 2.7 plus, it's ridiculously good, which is why we say that T-Boost is the de facto best for this until you get rank 14. Rank 14, of course, is also 2.9, so up here somewhere, where are we? There you go, 2.9 speed. So we'll get into that a little bit later. Some people like to go for a second Dalrens for an extra 50 attack power. In the offhand, you can do that as well, but I prefer Bone Scraper because you get a ton of poison procs from this. And sometimes if you get resists and things like that, especially if you're playing on the Alliance against Orcs and everything else, you're going to be in a bit of trouble. Playing against Mages, you definitely need Bone Scraper. You can swap to the second weapon. You can swap to the Dalrens Tribal Guardian. If you get that, or once you've got poison procs with the extra 50 attack power, it's completely up to you guys. You can also play Scarlet Chris in the offhand, so the theme here is keeping with the stat stick and the speed. You want a fast offhand if you can, with some stats on it. You do not want a slow dagger in your offhand or a slow weapon if you can help it, which is usually why you don't go for the 1.8, because I think 1.8 is just a little bit too slow. Jawbreaker's weapon you can also get. If you can't get anything else, you know, we can just go down the list here. Anything that's fast and gives you stats in the offhand is going to be fantastic. So of course an Assassination Blade you wouldn't want. Alright, so let's move on. This is your pre-raid for Hemo. I'll link you guys to all these sets. Your pre-raid for Dagger is pretty much identical to Hemo, except you change the Pendant of Celerity. And you go for a crystal-tipped stiletto with a Scarlet Chris in the offhand. The reason I prefer Scarlet Chris in the offhand over the Bone Scraper, where the Bone Scraper was for Hemo, was because of the 10 agility. And 10 agility is much better, plus also the stamina is quite nice too, since don't forget, when you're backstab spec, you're going to be locking people down a little bit less. The extra stamina is going to help you, in my opinion, right there. So, next set. This is your BG set for Dagger. So it's just ever so slightly different from your previous set. You just want a little bit more stamina. So you go for the Devil Saw legs, Devil Saw gauntlets, you get a nice precisely calibrated boomstick for the agility, and you go for the Beads of the Ogre Might for the stamina, and the Stone Skin Gargoyle cape. This is just your most balanced set, since you won't be sort of set swapping in the BGs until you get a little bit more gear, basically. Now if you move into the rank 14 BIS set, this is your survival set, so of course this will have your Furbog medicine pouch. You've got to go farm that, get your AGM, get a nice fire reflector because you're going to be pushing up to roof in Warsong. This is what you'll be using when you run flags, when you peel for your FC, when you're... anything where you need to stay alive, when you're pushing up to roof and against a flag carrier, or you haven't connected on a flag carrier yet, you want as much survivability and stamina as possible. So this set rocks the Gnomish Harm Prevention Belt, a ton of HP basically, a ton of HP survivability, which is of course why we have the AGM and the Furbog medicine pouch in the offhand. Now, when you eventually connect on the enemy druid or the enemy flag carrier, you will do a Vanish gear swap into this set right here. This is your BIS set for that. So of course this rocks pretty much a ton of crit. So the focus, like I spoke about in my guide video, was when you connect on flag carriers, you've got a very small window of opportunity to do damage, so you want the most amount of crit possible. So this set runs 31% crit, boys. Jesus. So moving on swiftly to our next set, this is our overall PvP BIS if you are Dagger spec'd. The way this will work is you play with 5 out of 8 Night Slayer. This is ridiculously good for backstab because you can open with Cheap Shot, and instead of using Sinister Strike and then gouging, you can do Cheap Shot, backstab, gouge, then kidney shot. So you get a ridiculous amount of pressure from this set purely because you get an extra 10 energy. Of course, you wait for the energy to tick just before you open, etc, etc. And you play 3 out of 6 on your rank 13 gear because Gouge is the most broken ability in the game next to Curse of Exhaustion from Warlock. So reducing the CD on that is absolutely stupid. And finally, if you don't really fancy ranking, you can go for this set right here. Main changes are we keep the Core Hound Tooth in the offhand. This is better than rank 14 offhand. We have our Perdition's Blade in the main hand instead of the rank 14 Dagger. Perdition's Blade is a little bit unsafe because the proc can break CCs, but it is what it is. And we essentially just run the 6 out of 8 tier 1, very straightforward with 2 pieces of tier 2 since they're in the game. You of course get this from Onyxia, and you get this bad boy from Ragnaros. So that's that. Some people prefer Striker's Mark in the offhand, but again, when you play Dagger, in my opinion, your main stats are agility and crit. So anything that allows you to gain those 2 stats is going to be your priority, essentially. And those are pretty much the gear sets, boys. So all these gear sets are decked out with talents. I'll link these sets in the description of the YouTube video. And that is that. I'll catch you guys in SoM later today, baby. Let's fucking go, it's fresh time!